He's been in Morocco or somewhere.
Oh, with his son, I think.
Yeah.
They'd taken
Yeah, they went.
a trip.
He posted a couple of pictures.
Talk to Evelyn now if you need to.
Oh, okay. Hello, Trustee Criswell. We have Trustee Sutton is getting here. We'll be ready to start here in about a minute or so.
Now, are you supposed to be on?
I don't hear,
Not necessarily.
we can't hear Trustee Criswell.
Just have to be careful. So I am being careful.
Okay, I'm gonna scoot down
Nobody
this
here.
end, so I don't want to.
You're not
you said-
symptomatic of anything,
I
right?
don't think so.
Okay. So I've done
Nothing
my
yet.
due diligence. Everybody's good.
Have you asked everybody?
I don't, Cheryl, can you
Asked
try and
everybody,
say
but I haven't
something,
been
or
close to
Susan?
everybody else,
Oh, okay.
so
So far, so good.
we go to the room, I'll
Well, you sit down on one end?
Nothing
and then
yet.
Okay.
So I had a dialogue pop up about open all rooms, including the executive session. Should I close that? Is that interfering?
That same pop-up line.
Close it. Trustee Criswell, you can hear us, right?
Yes, I can.
Yes, she can. She can hear us. And I don't think we can hear anyone, Cheryl or Susan. Yeah, Cheryl, we don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Hello.
There we go. That did it.
Hello.
Bashful, you know.
Of course.
Go.
I am good to go.
All right, we'll wait for the prompts from Media Services, and then we will go ahead and begin.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, welcome to the Kansas City, Kansas Community College Board of Trustees special meeting on Tuesday, July 18th. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. With that, I'd like to request a roll call, please.
Trustee Ash,
Here.
Trustee Brown,
Here?
Trustee Bruni,
Here.
Chair Criswell,
Here.
Trustee Daniels,
Here.
Trustee Hoskins Sutton,
Here.
Vice Chair Isnard.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. Next on the agenda would be the executive sessions. We will have 4 executive sessions, and for the meeting location, the board members will be allowed to travel to the special meeting room. The first executive session will be to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel with possible action to follow in open session, 10-minute duration.
So moved.
Second.
Did I hear something?
Second.
Oh, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
go ahead and close out the special session, and then we'll move on to amendments on the 5 o'clock session.
Sounds good. May I have a motion to adjourn the special session?
So moved.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. And now moving on to the Kansas City, Kansas Community College Board of Trustees meeting on Tuesday, July 18th. Calling the meeting to order. And with that, we would like to have the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Dr. Daniels, Trustee Daniels.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, the Kansas City, Kansas Community College mission statement is to inspire individuals and enrich our community one student at a time. With that, may we have roll call, please?
Trustee Ash,
Here.
Trustee Brown,
Here.
Trustee Bruni,
Here.
Chair Criswell,
Here.
Trustee Daniels,
Here.
Trustee Hoskin Sutton,
Here.
Vice Chair Isnard.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Next is, I understand we need to amend the today's agenda as there are items that we're going to need to add. And the motion, as I understand it, would be to conduct additional discussion during the unfinished business of the 3 items that were discussed in open session that the board will need to take action upon. That was a mouthful.
Yeah, and if I may, we'll break it down just a little bit. The amendments to the agenda in specifics. One, we will take the executive session number 4, and we'll move that to the end of the meeting before we close the meeting out. And then under unfinished business, we will take action on executive session 1, 2, and 3.
That is correct.
Yes.
Move that we amend the agenda as stated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on next to the audience, to patrons and petitioners. I'd like to invite the public to raise your hand in the chat or approach the podium for the opportunity to address the board. Addressees must state their name and address for the record before making any comment or asking any question. Do we have anyone in the chat?
There's no one in the chat.
Is there anyone at the podium?
No.
No? Oh, okay, thank you. Moving on then to recognitions and presentations. I'd like to call for the presentation of the strategic plan biannual update presented by Ms. Chris Green, Chief Marketing and Institutional Image Officer. Go ahead, Ms. Green.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh,
Today you all have a copy of that report in front of you, as well as one that was in your packet electronically. And if you'll put the presentation up, we'll go ahead and get started. I am pleased to report the last update of this current strategic plan, and thank you all for your input into the next strategic plan that begins with this academic year. So this report really touches on the comprehensive work the college has done in the strategic areas. And as we look at the progress summarized, I was very impressed at the depth of work across the campus and across the community that we have done. So as we go through this, I'm just going to highlight by priority area some of the key findings. You all can read through, ask me any questions about specifics. We made in student success priority 1. We made forward momentum in 3 of the 4 KPIs. 11 of the 16 initiatives are either complete or listed as ongoing because they were incorporated into our institutional practices. And we really had very strong ongoing success in talking about Upward Bound, our Basic Needs Center, and our grant funding in Title III that will help us really transform the services that we can provide for our students. In priority 2, quality programs and services, we saw growth in all 4 of the KPI measures this year. We also saw 14 of the 16 initiatives either be marked complete or ongoing as we've institutionalized them. And we saw a lot of forward momentum and workforce partnerships. You can see as you walk through campus compared to 3 years ago, the learning spaces renovation that's continued. And there was some really good information this term on the Center for Teaching Excellence, the number of surveys, and they touched over 200 faculty and staff. That was great. And when we look at priority 3, employee engagement, this area took us more time to get started in because we had to determine specialized questions in our assessment. So we have just started to understand employee engagement and communication and measure that, and we'll continue that on into the next strategic plan. 14 of those 16 initiatives were marked ongoing or complete. And we really continued to delve deeper into professional development. And we are looking at talent acquisition and adding another position there, as well as enhanced consistent communication opportunities through all of our areas, including developing this next strategic plan. So that was another great thing about employee engagement. Priority 4 was community engagement. We saw growth in all 4 KPIs. You know, when I look at strategic planning through my career and you can see consistent growth in our KPIs page after page, you know that we've been putting in the work. Then we look and see that 13 of our 16 initiatives in this area have been completed or incorporated into our ongoing. And we have seen 5 new scholarships this year. Our campus master plan is nearing completion. And our centennial anniversary has been planned, and we will be launching our first events with Convocation and then in September with our birthday bash. So there have been many great things that's happened this year. And if you look at the 3 years in culmination of these 6 reports, there has been a tremendous amount of work to bring the college forward. Now, as I end this report, I also want to take the opportunity to say that I am transitioning this responsibility to Dr. Balog, and going forward, he'll be reporting to you on the progress of our strategic plan and the initiatives going forward. Now, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thanks.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Green?
No questions, just a huge thank you.
Yes.
Good work.
Indeed.
There's a lot of
Excellent
progress over 3 years, and also shows still work to be done, which is in the next strategic plan. And a nice transition.
That is true.
A lot of work, and I commend everybody across the college that helped.
Absolutely.
Because it's, it's a total organization effort.
This is a big lift. Everyone did a great job. I'll add a little tidbit. Regent Cindy Lane from the Kansas Board of Regents, the chair of the board, was on campus today, and she was walking around, and she was here about a year ago, and she commented on just how beautiful the campus looks and the improvements that have been made just in this last year alone. And you're touching on that in the beginning of the strategic plan report. So, yeah, good work.
Thank you.
Yep. Well
What are you
done.
gonna do with your spare time now?
Good answer.
Okay. Thank you again, Ms. Green. Okay, moving on now to the the presentation of the applicant and hires data biannual update presented by Ms. Christina McGee, Chief Human Resources Officer. Go ahead, Ms. McGee.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, I'm going to present the applicant and hiring data or demographic data for you all this evening. And we've taken a look at 2 fiscal years, so fiscal year 2022 and fiscal year 2023. And what you'll see here is a comparison. I believe you all have the report as well, but you'll see a comparison between the 2 years in terms of our applicants and hiring. I do want to note that for the applicant data, this is voluntary data. So if individuals decided to participate or provide that information, this is what we have. So anywhere where you see no response means we do not have a response for those applicants. And just to start going over the information, and I will try to be quick because it sounds like we have a 5-minute limit. In 2023, fiscal year 2023, we had an increase in applications of 40%, 46% increase in female applicants, and 34% increase in male applicants. Overall, there was an increase of female applicants in comparison to male applicants. And if you look at our hiring data, it's very similar as well, where we had a higher rate of female applicants that were hired. I also want to note that we had in our applicants for between fiscal year 2022 and 2023, there was an increase in individuals that reported having a disability as well as being a veteran. There was an increase in our number of individuals that were hired that were disabled, but we did experience a 40% decrease in individuals that were hired as veterans for those that were reported. And that's for all positions, all applicants. When we break that information down based upon race, what we saw in 2023, there was an increase in applicants for all races, but we also noticed that there was an increase in minority applicants relative to the whole percentage. So in fiscal year 2022, there was a 34% increase and 47% increase in fiscal year 2023. Overall, there was an increase in terms of hired applicants, a 3% increase from 2022 to 2023 in minority applicants.
Ms. McGee, when you're going through this, I think one of the things the board was interested in and curious, if you go back one slide, if you look at the percentage of our applicants and the percentage of our hired, you'll see really good alignment with that. So I think that was important to note. So as you're looking through this, it's the percentage column under FY23 on both the applicant side and the hired side. So you can kind of do a side-by-side comparison presented in this mode.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm just highlighting some of the things that I've noticed in this report. But if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So as we break this down into more granular information, if we take a look at administrative positions. So we had a total of 3 that were available to hire for fiscal year 2022 and 2023, and we did see an increase in minority applicants for fiscal year 2023. And how we define administration is dean level and above. However, we did see a slight decrease in the number of total applicants, but it was just by a total of 5. Okay. We further broke that down into supervisors as well. And if you take a look at this data, there was an increase really in all applicants, but also in all minority applicants as well. But what's most interesting is we had a 536% increase in Black or African American applicants in the supervisor category for fiscal year 2023.
1 minute.
Okay, so I'm going to jump through this.
I took a little of your time. I'm
Nope,
sorry.
you're fine. So for faculty positions, one of the things that I noted is our most significant change was in the applicants for Hispanic was 125% increase. Next, following that is African Americans at 88%. So this is a trend that we've been seeing throughout as we break down the positions, that there's been an increase in these 2 particular populations. For fiscal year 2023, KCKCC had more minority applicants applying for the position, but for faculty, if you look at the number of hired positions, there's a slight disproportionate number for faculty in comparison to the applicants that applied for those positions. So little room for improvement there. For adjunct
Time.
adjunct positions, I'll go through this really, really quick. Adjunct positions, what I noticed is we had a decrease, which is different from what we've been experiencing in terms of our applicants for Black and Hispanic. There's a decrease in applications being completed for Black or African American and Hispanic or Latino. However, there was an increase in Asian, as well as an increase in the hire. So there was a 1% increase in that hire. I'll just skip through this really quickly. Again, with our staff, this is the largest applicant group that we have. Again, still continuing to see an increase in minority applications. However, we did have a decrease on the hiring side for Hispanics and as well as individuals that are white. And in comparison, this just shows a comparison for Wyandotte County, our student population in the KC Metro. And just to highlight briefly, our African Americans really are kind of aligned. African American population, as well as 2 or more races, are aligned with our student population. Areas in which I identified that we need to kind of take a focused look at is Pacific Islander. We didn't hire any Pacific Islanders. However, we have a population of 0.2% on campus as far as our student population. And then also there's a population for Wyandotte County as well as Kansas City Metro. With the Hispanic population, there's a slight disproportionate there's a slight disproportionate percentage in terms of the percentage that we hired, which is right around 10.1%. But if you take a look at our population in Wyandotte County, there's 24.5 or 33% population in terms of this demographic. So areas in which we can work on. But I know I'm out of time, so I will pause and ask for any questions that you may have.
I saw your last chart had a reference, like a source where the data came from.
Mm-hmm.
The other slides, what's the source for that data?
So that is our internal, through Ellucian, the number of hires, we just pull a report, and then our applicant stack is our applicant tracking system. And so we just pull a report from the applicant stack or applicant tracking system, which is called applicant stack.
Okay. And how up to date is the employee directory? Because if you look online at that directory, you don't see that many minorities, especially Black, in that list of employees where you see pictures. So I'm just wondering if students looked at that and was thinking, well, there's no one here like me, because if you look through that, you don't see the color that you're saying in that. So is the directory not up to date, or did I miss somebody? Or?
I would have to ask IT how up to date it is. We do share, once we have hires or changes, we share that information with IT, but I don't know how often it's updated. So that would be a question for Mr. Gabriel.
All right. Thank you for the report.
Thanks for the report. I think that's good information and something we've been wanting for several years. So thanks, Christina, for putting it together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on now to the presentation of the Information Technology Master Plan Annual Update presented by Mr. Peter Gabriel, Chief Information Officer. Go ahead, Mr. Gabriel.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
To follow up on that, we do update that usually on a weekly basis for the directory, and I'll look at that to get that updated if there's some things missing from it. So,
all right, thank you.
IT plan, you should have it in your packets for your review. And I kind of I didn't bring a presentation, but I wanted to offer a little background of how we gathered some information for that. We held separate and several different in-person and virtual forums for students, staff, faculty, different times of the day and different days of the week. We also had a representative from IT meet with the different senates, the student senate, the staff senate, the faculty senate, and adjunct faculty senate, to gather their feedback. And then finally, not finally, but we also requested feedback directly from the deans here at the college. During that process, we also sent out a short survey on rating IT. How are we doing? It was short, maybe 5 questions, anonymous, so we could get plenty of responses back. The first question was, how would you rate us overall, 1 to 5? We received a 4.28, which I was pretty happy with. Then a couple of the other questions, any particular software or technology that you feel needs to be investigated or implemented? And then what do we do best? And then probably the most important one for me, what can we do better? So we have the feedback from that, and we took some of that feedback and incorporated that into the plan. But for tonight, I would just ask that you please take a look at the draft. If you have any questions or comments, please send those to Dr. Mosier or to Cheryl, and we'll get them addressed. And my plan is to have a final version for next month's meeting for you to review. And at this point, if you have any questions on the draft itself, the way it is now, I'd be glad to take those. And if I can't answer them, I will. If not, I'll get the info for them.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Gabriel? Or comments? Okay. And you mentioned this will be distributed before the next board meeting. So it's going to be before the actual board packet, or it's going to be included in the board packet?
Included in the packet.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you again for your presentation, Mr.
Thank
Gabriel.
you. Very good.
Good.
Okay. Moving on in the agenda, there are no communications that are scheduled, so that takes us to the board committee reports, starting with the board finance committee. Go ahead, Vice Chair Isnard.
Thank you, Chair Criswell. The Finance Committee met on Monday, July 10th, where I was joined by Trustees Ash and Bruni, along with staff, and I'm happy to report the college continues to be good stewards of our financial resources. I've got just a few highlights for you, and then you'll no doubt hear more in Dr. Knuvin's full report. Starting out with some good news, we received $19.5 million in revenue in the month of June, increasing our net assets by $10.1 million. And as we reported last month, that was expected due to the dates that tax distributions are made. A couple of notable items that we had some discussion about at the meeting from the consent agenda. One was the replacement of the turf on the baseball field. It was about $492,000, and we just wanted to know kind of what was the backstory of that. This was a planned expense. The field had really passed its expected lifespan. It was over 10 years old. The college didn't want it to become a safety issue, so we agreed that it was time to do that. Also, $454,000 paid to Christie Development. Some more good news, that was the final payment for the student housing project, letting us officially close out that project. I'm sure Dr. Knuvin will have a little bit more about that in her report too. And then lastly, there was one item that was added to consent item B after the committee met this month. An item for a safety-related reason to Santa Fe Glass. And although the committee approved the report to move on to the full board before that item was added, Dr. Knuvin did reach out to me and let me know the situation for that purchase. So I would ask that the board continue to consider those items on the agenda tonight and approve them. And that concludes my report.
Okay, any questions for Vice Chair Isnard? Okay, thank you for your report. Next, the board policy committee.
Move approval of the report. Move approval of the report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again for your report. I just wanted to note that the board policy committee does not meet in June, July, or August, so that takes us to the community engagement committee.
And we
You'll have a
community engagement committee must have took the same vacation that the board policy committee did. We have not met, but the plans is to meet next month. We do have a presentation for the Shepherd Center, and we're continuing to meet with groups in the community to let them know the great job we're doing at KCKCC and want to continue to do by moving downtown.
Excellent.
That's my report.
Excellent report. May I have a motion to approve the report, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. ACCT or KACCT. Excuse me, it looks like you all have changed your name to KACC, which is the Kansas Association of Community Colleges. Did I get that right, Don?
That's correct. That is one of the big updates for this month's report is we are now known as, so it's a little renaming and a little rebranding also, Kansas Association of Community Colleges. Because as all the trustees know and a lot of the staff know, even KACCT included all of our college presidents. And so we just felt that Kansas Association of Community Colleges better represented the group, the full group, the entire group. And it doesn't change the way we do business necessarily. It's just how we refer to ourselves. So number one. Number two, from KACC, the Kansas legislature had instructed the legislative post-audit office or group to conduct an audit of athletic programs at community colleges. So there's quite a bit of discussion in the weekly phone conference last week because, not all programs are created equal and not all colleges have all of the same athletic programs or teams and so on and so forth. Now, they're not going to audit all 19, and the audit is going to include Northwest Tech, I believe, as one of 6 colleges that will be audited. So I didn't hear any rationale about which colleges were going to be selected, although if they go by enrollment, I mean, we could be included in there. But we don't have all of the athletic programs that some of the other colleges have. So what their rationale is going to be, I don't know. But Heather and the presidents particularly are working diligently to try to help them understand that, the data they're going to be requesting exists in different places sometimes, or certainly in different formats amongst the 19 community colleges. And so anyway, we'll see how it all works out, but there's a lot of effort and work being put into this to try to help guide the process as best we can to make it as easy on staff people for the 5 community colleges that will be selected and will be audited. So it's kind of a mess right now, but a lot of things that either CABE or the legislature asks for end up being a mess, and we have to try to clean it up as best we can. So,
did this come from legislature or CABE board, Don?
It's legislative post-audit.
Okay.
So, Greg, maybe you can clarify how much of a role CABE is going to play in it, but
yeah,
I got the sense not much.
Right. It did. It does start in the legislature, and they're kind of working with and through KBOR for data, et cetera. And they'll be reaching out to the community colleges and Northwest Tech for that data. And some of it is still, as Trustee Ash mentioned, in many situations, it's going to be comparing apples and oranges.
Right.
The way that the colleges operate and fund athletic programs, et cetera. With Heather and representatives from KBOR, I think they're trying to make that so the data that is submitted will be as consistent as possible, even though it won't be 100% consistent.
Yeah.
So no
Makes
talk
sense.
about auditing the level one as compared to the level two community colleges when you look at it, athletics, if we're a level two or division two. I don't know how many are division one, but so probably gonna.
Yeah, and we're mixed, so that might be part of it. So
Right.
one is the size of the institution,
Yeah.
number of athletic teams, number of athletic players, and the different divisions. So they haven't settled on anything, I don't believe, but
That-
it's some sort of mix.
Yeah, that was my understanding, but I would, like Greg just said, I would anticipate there'll be maybe some kind of mix, so they can try to be as comprehensive with their audit as across, that it's representative of everything that we represent, the colleges represent in their athletic programs. Yeah. So, ACCT, the next event is the annual Congress. And so Cheryl's been working with, I think, Trustee Hoskins Sutton and Trustee Isnard and myself in terms of attending that. And she's doing a great job getting us, registered and reservations and so on and so forth. And so it's a few months away. So there is a quarterly KCKCC meeting in August, and I'm planning to attend that, and I think Trustee Hoskins Sutton is, and of course Dr.
No.
Mosher.
I responded that I can't go.
Oh, you can't?
No.
Oh, okay, all right. So maybe it's just me and Dr. Mosher. So, and that's it, Madam Chair.
Okay. Well, any questions for Trustee Ash?
Move approval of the report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, everyone, for all of your reports. Good stuff. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. I understand that Trustee or Vice Chair Isnard, you'd mentioned before that there was an item that was not included in the original data because it came in late. This is during your Finance Committee presentation.
Yes, that was consent agenda item B. I
Item
believe,
B.
if I can get to
Okay.
it, and it was the last item on that list, I believe.
Okay.
Number 9, Dr. Mosher says.
Or 62. I think.
Yeah, 162. Okay. So then
Move
we would
approval
need
of the consent agenda.
Well, hold on. We would need to modify it then to add the item 9B. Is that correct?
Sort of included.
It's included in the board packet, ma'am.
Is it? Okay. All right. My mistake. All right. Go ahead.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, there will be no student Senate reports as none is scheduled due to summer break, which takes us to the president's report. Go ahead, Dr. Mosher.
All right, thank you very much. So also, good evening, everyone, and I hope everyone has their power restored. Latest I heard this morning and last night, some was still out. So that was quite a storm that we had in the area and in the region. We did have some flooding. Most of it is just the straight winds from the west blowing the water underneath the doors, under the seals. And then we have one area that we need to do some more inspection on. So not bad considering some of the other areas that were impacted in the region. So I'd like to report on, during the last few weeks and in the upcoming week or two, we've had and have some great opportunities to continue to get out and tell our story and talk about all the good work that we're doing here at the college. As I work very closely with Lieutenant Governor Tolan's office, Paul Hughes, and the Department of Commerce, they were approached or they reached out to the Wall Street Journal to talk about how Kansas is attracting so many businesses and the billions of dollars in capital investment that's taking place in Kansas. So the other half of that story is, how does Kansas come up with the skilled workforce to fill these thousands and thousands of jobs? So Kansas Commerce referred them to me, and I think that's a great acknowledgement for the college and the work that we're doing, and some of the new ways that we're working in workforce development with consortium-sponsored programs and other items. So had about a 1-hour interview with the Wall Street Journal on last Friday. They're still putting the pieces together, and they'll let us know when they're going to have it ready to go. It still may be a while, but looking forward to that. On Friday, after the announcement of McCowan Gordon becoming our construction manager at risk for the downtown project, marketing and Christy Green was contacted by Channel 4 News, which was great, and Christy helped set up an interview for, she and I went downtown to the site and did an interview on site about the project and everything that we're doing and where we are in that process. So Christy may have some more information on that, but we hope to see it this week. It's on the morning show between 5:30 a.m. and 9 a.m., I believe. Last week we hosted the Wyandotte Economic Development Council quarterly meeting, and we had close to 100 people, business and industry and YEDC investors over in Centennial Hall down in the game room, and had a really good turnout for that. Tomorrow I do an interview with the Wyandotte County Making It in the Dot magazine about workforce development, education, community colleges, and how we help meet the workforce needs of the region. So that will be good. And in 2 weeks, KCKCC will host the Kansas Board of Regents for one of their 2 days in the summer retreat. So it is Monday, I think it's the 30th. I have the 31st written down, but I think Cheryl has corrected me on that. So it'll be a great day. I'll do a presentation to the board. They're really interested in the projects we've been doing, the success, Centennial Hall, our work we're doing with attracting and retaining first generation and underserved student populations, overall retention and completion rates, concurrent enrollment, work with Panasonic and other large companies with the new workforce development models, and then the workforce needs for the downtown project and also Leavenworth. So it'll be a great time to share with what we're doing with the Board of Regents. So we're looking forward to that and having them here on site. So the board and anyone is welcome to attend that, and we'll have some more information coming out on timing. And then they'll do dinner over in Centennial Hall. And Regent Lane was talking about after dinner they're going to do a panel on meeting the underserved student population. So it'll be with the Hispanic Development Fund and some other organizations and myself. So that'll be an interesting panel to be a part of as well. With the downtown project, we currently have out the request for proposals for selective demolition of the church and then the total demolition of the buildings on the south side of the alley there. We'll get responses back by July 27th. Dr. Knieven is leading that charge, and I think tomorrow morning we have a required on-site visit for those companies who are looking to respond to that RFP. Our legal counsel is working with UG Legal Counsel on the transfer of property that is remaining in the UG's ownership, separate from the land grant property. So we will have that ready to go for the August Economic Development and Finance Subcommittee on the 14th or 15th, and then later on the 17th for the full commission. So we're hoping all that will go smoothly. Cheryl's working on setting up some meetings for us with UG staff, BPU, and area commissioners so that we can help spread the word on what we will be sharing at the EDF and the commission meeting. So that will be good. We had Merchant McIntyre out last week for a workshop. I know that Dr. Baylog has more information on that. And they're the ones that are doing our federal fundraising, and they announced that our $2.9 million congressional discretionary request through Representative Jake LaTurner's office passed the House Appropriations Committee, so that's really good news. And then it needs to go forward and be passed by the full federal omnibus budget. And Representative LaTurner actually called us because he was coming into the area and wanted to have a tour of the college because he hadn't had that yet. So Dr. Baylog and I took him and his staff around on the July 26th. So that was a good time to continue to get to know Representative LaTurner better and for him to get to know us. So that was nice. July 1st, July 1st, we received notification that Wyandotte County is now the highest median wage county in the state. We were number 3, probably 3 years ago, and then we advanced to number 2, and now we're number 1. And it's been between Johnson County, Leavenworth County, and Wyandotte County. So we have surpassed our neighbors to the north and the south at $47,577. Leavenworth is now second at $47,528, and Johnson County $47,049. And then there's a big gap between the next counties. So the next county is Sedgwick, at $42,241, so a difference of $5,333 from the top 3 counties to number 4, and then it drops off pretty dramatically from there as well. So it's good for the county, but it also means that the competition for good quality candidates will continue to be tougher. So we have to really keep up with that. Received a call from Andy Bound, the president of Johnson County Community College, and the Panasonic vice president for operational excellence and training has been identified for the local site here. And we had a conversation with him last week, and we're going to continue conversations, get this VP and their HR people out as soon as they can to meet with faculty, staff who can support their workforce development needs. And without getting into too many details, they literally need hundreds of industrial maintenance techs and triple that on automation engineering technicians. So we will be going full speed ahead to try and help get their workforce built up, and they're great paying positions. We just finished classes yesterday for the summer session. We're already planning for convocation in 3 weeks. I believe it is August 8th, but Cheryl will send out some more information, and you're invited to attend the morning session if you would like to. And then last but not least, we received notice from the state, our FY 2024 adult education and literacy funding for this next year is $4,682,951, which I believe is up a couple $100,000 maybe from last year. So yeah. Jerry might have some additional information on that. But so yeah, lot of things in the works, and everyone is working very hard to keep all of these projects moving forward. So we're very grateful for all the work everyone is doing, and that concludes my report.
Awesome.
Okay. Did someone have a question? Some murmur. Okay. Well, first of all, Dr. Mosier, thank you so much, and thank you to the faculty and staff, because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot going on right now, and a lot of very, very important things going on for the college. So just thank everyone for their diligence and their efforts, because I know it's not easy every single day, so we appreciate everything you all are doing.
Great, thank you. And I will share that with everyone.
Please do so. Okay, any other questions or comments for Dr. Mosier?
Move approval of his report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks again, Dr. Mosier. Next is the Executive Vice President report delivered by Dr. Scott Baylog. Go ahead, Dr. Baylog.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
With all those moving parts, much of my focus is in ensuring that all of those moving parts are working well together, and that we're keeping them synchronized, and that all of that work is contributing to moving the college towards accomplishing the priorities that are contained within your strategic plan, as well as moving us towards accomplishing the annual goals that we have. That includes working with each of our cabinet members to align our annual SWATs that we produce, as well as the plans that include the strategic enrollment management plan, our marketing plan, our technology plan. Those should all be interconnected. They should all be aligned and supporting the accomplishment of the strategic plan. In addition to that, the president mentioned that we hosted Merchant McIntyre Associates last week for a Department of Labor grant application workshop. And so they were here really to help our team in developing an application, which will be an initial application to the Department of Labor with our hope of positioning for greater funds downstream. But we hosted Julia Angelotti, Vice President of Legislative Strategy, and Stephen Solomon, Vice President and Director of Program and Grant Development with Merchant McIntyre. We have seen extraordinary returns on the investment that we have made in Merchant McIntyre, and really are benefiting from the relationship that we have with them and growing our internal capacity to move after grant opportunities at the federal level. But then we're also now targeting foundations and other organizations to garner funding to support our work here at the college. I'm also really pushing to strengthen our intelligence capabilities here at the college. We recently, and you saw in your handbook or the book that you received for this board meeting, that Henry Hinkle, our Director of Institutional Effectiveness, resigned last month. And so I have stepped in to shoulder that area, to lead that area until we're able to fill that role. We're really working closely with our president, with the cabinet, to invest in intelligence tools that will inform the work that we do here at the college, whether it's tools like Lightcast or other similar like Jobs EQ, to make sure that we're getting real-time data and positioning to support those opportunities across our area so that we can see what the workforce demand is, and so that our programs are aligned correctly with those demands. I mentioned working with IE. That will include increasing our capacity in data management and the use of our systems and tools, driving modernization and optimizing our ROI and the investments that we're making in those tools. Finally, and I thank our human resources area for their work. The president mentioned about this high wage, average wage across Wyandotte County, also the low unemployment rate. That's making it far more difficult to secure talent, especially in key roles. But I thank human resources for their work and their support in our aggressive efforts, our intentional efforts in filling the Director of Institutional Effectiveness role with top talent. That position was posted on Indeed, the Chronicle of Higher Education, Inside Higher Ed Jobs, Association for Institutional Research, and LinkedIn. We are aggressively pursuing that opportunity, that role, and placing a talented person in that position. So that was in the strategy area. In partnerships, working very closely with the Wyandotte Economic Development Council, supporting them in their HR roundtable, working with area employers to support their workforce needs. Interestingly, the focus of the conversation this past month centered on childcare and the needs of childcare for employees within each of those organizations. And it's also an area that we're focused on in supporting the needs of our students and those that are coming to us that have that need. In addition, I'll be working with the E-Community and Empower WICO Fund, supporting the advancement of our local entrepreneurial ecosystem. I'm proud, I'm honored to represent KCKCC as a member of Class 45 of Kansas City Tomorrow, sponsored by the Civic Council of Greater Kansas City. I'm excited about that opportunity. Working in Leavenworth with Fort Leavenworth, their Career and Education Fair on August 8th. really supporting their transition assistance program, working with correctional facilities in Leavenworth as well, at Fort Leavenworth with the disciplinary barracks, as well as Lansing Correctional, and growing a partnership there that solidifies our work in the welding program. Working with area employers. We mentioned last month the Kansas Society of Land Surveyors. We'll come back to you. You'll hear from us. I want to put this on your radar. An announcement and a signing ceremony with the society. This is all in telling our story in the community, getting our story out there, developing the narrative with employers that we are here to support their needs. And this is representative of the work in that area. You'll see more on ORGV as well. And finally, this week we'll be hosting Beyond Academics as part of our cabinet retreat. They will be really helping us to center on becoming a future-ready institution, modernizing the work that we do here, raising our level of expectation that we have for ourselves and each other and the performance of our institution, and driving change and impact across the college and in our community. I welcome your questions.
All right, thank you, Dr. Balog. Are there any questions or comments for Dr. Balog?
I'll just say I had a chance to interact with some surveying folks at the Chamber Golf Tournament last week. And I said, so I hear there's a shortage. And, oh, they said, absolutely. You know, so I told them we were working on that here from the college. Hopefully they could anticipate hearing more about it soon. So it sounds like it's going to be very soon.
It is. And we invite you to participate in that and to be part of that signing ceremony. It's really to help tell our story and the greater KC community that we are responding to the needs of our area employers and our workforce.
Good stuff.
God, I'd appreciate if you'd keep us informed on how the college is working on that child care initiative, because that's such a huge issue in Wyandotte County of quality child care. And I think we'd all be interested in knowing how the college is going to support or be a part of that initiative. So I'd like to hear further reports down the road on that.
Yeah, we'll bring that back to you. So we mentioned Merchant McIntyre and Associates. They actually alerted us about an opportunity through the U.S. Department of Education for funding to support childcare needs for our students. And so we're positioning for that in this coming year, this next grant cycle. And so we'll bring back more information in future meetings, but we'll keep you updated on that.
It'd be nice if some of those high wages would translate over to childcare workers. That would be
Absolutely.
That'd be wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move approval of the report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Dr. Balog. Excellent report as always. Next is the Vice President of Academic Affairs report delivered by Mr. Jerry Pope. Go ahead, Mr. Pope.
Thank you very much. Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
I'll just highlight a few things that are going on this month in academic affairs. I had the privilege of traveling to what we called fake Chicago, so Northbrook, Illinois, for the HLC Assessment Academy team graduation. So you can see who went with us, and that was a culmination of 4 years of work for the Assessment Academy, and we'll be talking more about that as time goes on. The Office of Assessment conducted a mandatory training session, Assessment 101, for newly hired co-curricular faculty or coordinators and leads. The Library and Learning Services celebrated National Library Week. They hosted a study break on the patio, prepared a Pride book display for June. I'm very proud of this number, 160 full-time teaching faculty and 134 adjunct faculty members attended at least one professional development event delivered by the Center for Teaching Excellence this past year. And there were right around 1,200 seats taken. So obviously some duplication in attendance, but that's one of our strategic goals, and we're very happy about the work that we're able to do. The Spring 2023 Faculty Teaching Circle participants met and discussed book from various topics, and one exciting thing was the author of one of the books came and led kind of a roundtable discussion. Dr. Mario Ramos Reyes, professor and coordinator of philosophy, completed a second book in as many years. It's in Spanish. I will not attempt the pronunciation, but he's working on a translation in English. In June, Dr. Ian Corbett, who's the coordinator of our audio engineering program, was in South America. He was actually in Argentina, Uruguay, and Chile. And he presented, I think, 16 workshops, including live concert sound, strategies for more effective mixing, Dolby Atmos immersive studio. So he presented a number of presentations there in South America. So congratulations to him. The building engineering and maintenance technology students worked on their capstone projects here in the summer, so congratulations to them. We even had a pop-up capstone cafe that happened in PCC, so it was a student that we were working to get through the program, so thanks for Dr. Knieven helping us do that. 5 KCKCC students and 4 advisors attended the National Leadership and Skills Conference in Atlanta, Georgia. The PTA program submitted their report, their CAPTI report on accreditation. We expect a visit in September, so you can see that. I learned that as of, recently, our PN first-time pass rate for the NCLEX is at 94%. So that's not the full number, but right now that's a very good number. So congratulations to all the work that they're doing. The Summer Science Academy continues through the end of the month. So we have a number of students. There are 30 students that are exploring health professions, STEM curriculum, and taking college preparation programming. We had a couple of Teach Award recipients. The adjunct professor was in psychology, Doug Sickle, and the full-time faculty members in culinary. I neglected to put that in, but Justin Williams. So congratulations to those two. You can see psychology professor Victor Ammons participated in the American Psychological Association's Introductory Psychology Initiative, and then very happy that the KCKCC Psi Beta Psychology Club is now a chartered member of the Community College National Honor Society in Psychology. So we've been reporting on some of those psychology symposiums that have been happening over the years, so we're excited to extend that to membership in the National Honor Society. So just a few things, even though it's summer and a lot of faculty are not around, there's still a lot going on, and I'm happy to take any questions that you have, and if I don't know the answer, I'm happy to do some research and get back to Dr. Mosier.
Well, one is kind of a comment. I noticed in the library and learning services, they do a math and science center workshop series, and that sounded so interesting and good for our students, and glad to see all the things they are doing for students. My question is this just during the summer, or do they offer these math and science series workshops during the school year? Because I can see this would really be beneficial for students.
My sense is they do offer it during the school year, but I would like to check just to make sure. But I think they do offer similar things in the school year.
Okay. And then also the information from Tom Grady was very impressive, and thank him for that in-depth report about all the teaching and learning that faculty are doing.
Absolutely.
And then finally, one more thing. I think we would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge all of the years of service for Jim Mayer. What he has done for this college and the jazz and putting it on the map has been amazing. He sent, I'm mentioning it because he did send an email a group email to me, Trustee Ash and Trustee Daniel, and wanted to let the rest of the trustees know how much he has enjoyed working here, and he's going to be back in Canada with a family to take care of some things. We wish him well, but gee, he's sure going to be missed. I just think it's just appropriate to recognize that.
Absolutely, and certainly his stamp is on the music department.
Yes.
We're trying to get together an interview and kind of a history of the music department, and so one of the things we did is we had an interview with Kelly, but it included Marlon Cooper, who had been here since 1972. Yes. And so Jim was there, and Dale Shetler, and I had a great time. I visited with him actually this weekend. So yeah, definitely Jim's stamp is on this music department.
Yes, I was here before Marlon Cooper retired. So when Marlon Cooper left, I thought, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? We just lost a giant. And then he came in and filled those shoes, not taking anything away from Marlon, but they've worked together. Sure, so we've been fortunate to have such good music faculty here.
Definitely.
So, wanted to share that.
I want to echo what Trustee Hoskins Sutton said about the Center for Teaching Excellence and that report they put out. What I was impressed with, they seem to have taken the next level. They're starting to ask the so what question.
Absolutely.
They're doing all that staff development.
Yes.
Is it making a difference in the classroom and what's happening with our students and teaching and learning? So I really admire them for starting to take that next step and really look into that. So be anxious to see what that report shows.
Yes, and Tom is going to do that consistently in July board reports. So we'll get those every year.
Thank you.
Good move. Move approval of the report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Mr. Poe.
Thank you.
Next is the Vice President of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management Report delivered by Dr. Chris Myers. Go ahead, Dr. Myers.
It's good to see everybody today.
Amen.
So obviously this is the busy time in terms of getting ready for the fall semester. So I want to highlight a couple of things related to our strategic enrollment management planning. Student Services has developed a new back to school form for us, which will be on August 1st. The idea is a way to create a environment where our current students could come in and talk to advisors, financial aid, and resources as a proactive measure to encourage early enrollment. So we're very excited to bring this on, and hopefully we'll be able to track it to see how the students who do participate in this, to see if it helps improve their persistence and stuff like that. But this is really about an opportunity to get students in, give them the classes they need, make sure that they have the schedules built out and the resources so they can hit the ground running this fall semester. As you saw in our enrollment reports, the fall enrollments are looking much more better than they have in previous reports to the Board of Trustees. As of this Monday, we are even seeing some greater gains. Our student headcount for the fall is up 1.9%, so it's a little over a 1% gain even from the report that you saw in the board report. And student credit hours are up 2.8%. So we're making that was about a 1.5% increase from the board report. So there's a lot of good momentum going there. Also related to that is Centennial Hall, pleased to report, is at 100% occupancy with officially 7 on the wait list. So there you go. The inn is full. So we're very excited about that. And, in terms of growth within a 1-year period, that's quite remarkable, especially with a new facility. So we are quite the envy of my peers and colleagues in the student affairs land, that's for sure. And then also related to orientation, this is the first time we were having an in-person orientation since the pandemic started. So through a strong collaboration between the Office of Admissions and Recruitment and the Student Success Center, we're working on a new format which we're going to persist throughout the academic year through the year, where we're going to have a more regular orientation process. So that way, as students get admitted, they'll have the opportunity to get advised, get the information they need, and the resources to get going. So as of right now, we're doing it every Thursday through the fall semester, and then we'll have more frequent opportunities and be refining it for an ongoing process. So this is part of our overall strategy to improve our onboarding environment. So the faster you get them enrolled, the faster you get them admitted, the faster you get them, or I said that backwards. And admitted, then enrolled, and then advised, the more likely they're going to be successful. And so by providing that and really kind of institutionalizing that, I think we'll see some greater gains in our enrollment management plan. A couple other things from the board part I'd like to mention, a couple of nice highlights that are in there. You might have saw Gary Goldbeck, who is one of our baseball players. He received the 2023 NGCAA Division I Defensive Baseball Player of the Year award. We believe that's the first time that Blue Devils have had that recognition, so congratulations to Gary. The Upward Bound Summer Academy just completed, and they just got back from their merit trip from Orlando, Florida, and so overall, they seem to be very well rested and excited about the year, but congratulations to the Upward Bound Academy for launching the Summer Academy. And then another thing, you might have saw in social media or the news release that Mr. Roger Suggs and FBOE got a mayoral proclamation a couple of weeks ago. Technically, that happened in July, so you'll see it in the next board report, but I did want to make knowledge of that, and it's quite an honor to be part of that recognition. And then also on the board report, Ms. Teresa Collier, our Director of Admissions and Recruitment, she's been appointed as the Kansas Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers, CACRO's executive committee, specifically to help co-chair their Kansas City Metro College Fair. As someone who was a former past president of CACRO, has a soft spot for this. Kansas City hasn't had a Kansas side regional college fair for quite some time. And so it's really great to have a Blue Devil being part of it and helping shape that experience for us. So with that, that's my report, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Good news on the enrollment. Looking forward to good news. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, any other questions or comments for Dr. Myers?
Just want to say, I think the new buses look great.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so we also got a new lease on buses for the athletic department and the rest of the campus. And so if you drive by the field house, you can see them right now. They'll be branded, but that's a long time coming too.
Come a long way since '07, Ray.
They're larger too, aren't they? I meant to mention that because I was out there running and I saw, oh, it's a larger bus now.
Yeah. And special thanks to Dr. Knevian and her team for helping us out with that. And so we used to have a small bus and a larger bus, and we went for two 35-size buses, which will cut down on our charter costs too, especially if you think about the softball and baseball teams. So.
Change. Big change.
Move approval of the report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Dr. Myers. Next is the Vice President of Vice President of Educational Innovation and Global Programming report delivered by Dr. Fabiola Ryobi. Go ahead, Dr. Ryobi.
Thank you so much. Great afternoon, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here in person and to see all your lovely faces. So thank you for that. I want to say kudos to the online education team, right? They support this meeting, but they've also supported over 1,800 minutes, right, of combined online Zoom meetings over the past month with over 2,000 participants. That is not easy. So great job for them. Moreover, we also see a huge impact and increase in our lecture capture software. We know that digital literacy is a big push for us, so is accessibility. So having our faculty, particularly in the summer, engage in softwares that could help students facilitate more easily this online environment is fantastic, right? We've had over 13,800 minutes, right, of accessibility recorded and viewed by over 217 unique participants. That's pretty amazing for the summer, right? And so as you can see, accessibility is a huge thing for us. With that, our accessibility has gone up from the spring term from 69.8% to over 74%. And that puts us above our goal, which is having an increase of 2% per year. Right? Yeah, that's pretty good. What's even better about it is that our own Sean Pate in OES participated in a competition called Fix Your Content Day. And I'm excited to report that although we placed before in the past, this is the first time we broke the top 10, right? We placed at number 8 with Sean, who fixed over 3,000 unique instances of content, right, in a class within a 24-hour period. So yeah, we could clap for Sean. That's pretty good. Absolutely. Moving on to high school partnerships and programs. We have a new assistant director that's starting on Monday, and they're going to be starting in a great space because this year our summer enrollment has been up 44% compared to last summer, and that's exciting. And we have an increase already of 12% for our fall classes that are coming up, so we're excited to see that. High school partnerships is extremely excited for where we're going in the future, working collaboratively with all of our partners, but particularly with integration of our application process to help streamline our students and make sure we're capturing them in a way that we could retain them for longer through the KCKCC experience. So we're just excited to see where that's going. We heard Dr. Mosier and Dr. Bielog talk about the importance of our community partners, particularly looking at industry. And with that, we've started our enrollment for our AET FAME program, and we already have 10 students enrolled in our program. You ready? 4 of them are women, and we have not seen that before. And so we're excited to see that skills and the interest is there, and we're building our capacity to be able to respond to those needs, right? Amstead Rail is using the IMT AET programs for their apprenticeships at their maintenance department. So we're just continuing to penetrate those areas, build our partnerships, and make sure that we're representing that KCKCC brand the best way that we can. And I welcome any questions if you have any, and I thank you for listening.
Excellent report.
You certainly hit the ground running.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff. It's a good report.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome. Glad to have
Thank
you here
you.
in person.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Move the report, approval of the report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Dr. Ryobi. Next is the Chief Marketing and Institutional Image Officer report delivered by Ms. Chris Green. Go ahead, Ms. Green.
Hello. Nice to see you all again. And I have some great news. Marketing is always full of great news. Dr. Mosier did share that we did have a nice story in process developing with Fox 4. We'll be sure to send that link out once we know when it's coming. But as all evergreen stories, it just depends on the news day. And I bet weather is taking Monday and Tuesday because of the storms over the weekend and the power outages. So I look forward a little bit. As soon as we start settling down those news stories, we'll probably see ours. And I have spent a lot of time recently working on centennial planning. We have got several exciting events underway. We are going to do 3 birthday bashes, 1 at each site. And those are going to be a time of celebration with our faculty, staff, and students to come together, realize what a great place we are, and maybe collect some things for the future for a time capsule so that in 50 years we can look back, because think of how transformational even the last 25 years have been. I cannot even imagine 50 years into the future. Also, Perkins Grant funding. We did several marketing initiatives as we led into May and June, and that was just fantastic. We marketed 7 programs, and each of those programs had a reach on social media from 44,000 to 88,000 eyeballs. So that is really important, especially as we gear up for this final push into fall enrollment. And then we also have been collaborating with the foundation. One of our goals is to take our Centennial Path campaign to the public. So we are putting together a strategy with the foundation to send out email, social media, and then later in the fall, a traditional print ask for campaign support, and see how that campaign goes so we can see how to do that in an ongoing basis moving forward. We also worked with creating the strategic plan update, and we are busily designing and finishing up the annual report right now. Summer is never a quiet time for our marketing team because we've got some big publications in the works at this time of year. We also marketed and collaborated with Student Success to help market that blueprint and the new in-person orientation through social media, banner web pages, and through a blast email. And then we also saw an uptick, which we have been seeing a downtick each year in comparison to the previous year. We saw an uptick in website visits, and that usually goes with an uptick in enrollment. So we are very excited about that and encouraged to hope to see that moving forward. And that really is my report. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them or find answers for you.
Any questions for Ms. Green? Okay, excellent report.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to
Great
approve?
report. Thank you. I know community engagement appreciates her help immensely. Thank you, Chris.
Was that a motion, Trustee Ash?
Pardon me?
Did you make the motion?
No, I didn't. I will. I move that
second
we
then.
accept her report.
Did I hear a second?
I'll second.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Ms. Green. Excellent report as always. Which takes us to the Chief Financial Officer report to be delivered by Dr. Shelley Kneven. Go ahead, Dr. Kneven.
Thank you, and I appreciate the time to share a little bit of information with you all. I'm going to keep it really short because I have time later on the agenda, so I'm hoping I'll get a little bit of grace and yield some of my 5 minutes to to later, just in case. But as Trustee Isnard said, we had a good month. We expected property tax receipts to come in, and we had our final payment come in of over $19 million. So we ended up where we thought we would be. But it's always good to receive money as opposed to just spend money. So it was a good month for the college. It's also an important month for the college because it's kind of a soft close of the fiscal year. Nothing's been audited. We're still doing journal entries. We're still, finishing up the books, if you will. But it gives us a good kind of peek under the tent as to how the year is going to end financially for the college. And so on the report, it's kind of colorful like this. I'll just point your attention to the information there. And we will be able to put about $6.7 million over to our reserves. This will be also important for later on in the presentations, and I'll highlight it again for you. But then we'll have another about $4.2 million in net revenue. So in total, we're about $10 million in net revenue. Always positive when it's a positive number at the bottom line, particularly for a public entity. It shows that we have been good stewards of the resources that we've been given and provided some awesome experiences for students and education for the community. So with that, that was just a couple of highlights on the financial side. We have also been working to close out like the bookstore for the year. And so a highlight for the bookstore is that they had about $1.7 million in total sales, which was up over last year, and they served over almost 63,000 customers. So we have a lot of students going through there. A lot of our students do get their books and their course materials through our bookstore. It's connected up with a financial aid, so it's very convenient for them. But then they also are buying apparel, they're buying food, they're buying drinks. So it's an important service that we provide. I did also share in the report that our net revenue out of the bookstore was about $51,000. And why I think that's important is that this isn't a profit center for the college. We've got to cover our costs to operate it, so it's a positive. So it covers the expenses of the employees, and then all of the things that we resell. But it's not like an exorbitant amount, which means that we're not overcharging the students for the books in particular and the course materials that they're getting. So it's a revenue neutral, basically cost center. It's not costing the institution to subsidize it. Other things are over in facilities. We finished our turnover, or almost finished with our turnover. This was our first year. We did have a few people that were in our student housing for the summer, and we finished cleaning, deep cleaning. We've repainted actually almost the entire building because the paint that had been used was kind of a flat and it's hard to get stuff off of it. So we went back in with a little bit better paint that will, that will make it where we don't have to do that every year. But it's a big undertaking. That's 252 bedrooms across all of these floors. So they have been fast and furious working. They've made repairs. There's been, nicks in the walls, painting, fans in the bathroom that didn't work. So they're doing a complete, review of each one of those rooms to make sure we are in tip-top shape for when those students come back. So that, I'm going to pause there. Oh, final note, I don't want to leave my friends in the police department out. They have done all of their annual training that is required to continue having post-certification for officers. So that's been a big focus of this last year, which is important because it's hard to work that into the schedule, especially when we've been down officers or we've had people, new hires that are in the academy, so they're not physically here.
Yeah.
So a big compliment to the police chief and deputy chief in getting that all scheduled, making sure our officers are well-trained and well-prepared to do their service here. So with that, I'll pause and answer questions, and we'll talk about budget here in a little bit.
Well, I noticed that the elevator still isn't working, and I thought you were going to mention that. That's a critical spot because you just mentioned all the students who go downstairs to the bookstore. So they're going down there spending their money. They got loads of books or whatever, apparel, and they've got to be inconvenienced to get back upstairs, or it's a load for them.
Yes.
Or they're headed to the food pantry, and they've got food and how they're going to get back. Or they're headed to the deli to get something to eat. So I think that's something that has to become a priority, is getting that elevator repaired.
It is a huge priority and has been for months. We have had difficulty getting some of the parts for the elevator, and then the unified government required a few additional things be done before we could put it back into commission. They required basically a sump pump in the bottom of the shaft be installed, so then we had to go and order that, and we're getting that installed. So it has been ridiculously long. It's been almost a year because it went down shortly after I started. And I just want to assure you that I'm constantly pushing and looking for information. I've even asked them to talk to other elevator companies. You know, what do we need to do to get this back in service? And we've just been chasing parts, or our vendor has, because it's actually TK Elevator that is the vendor. And the other elevator companies told us they're having the same challenges. But I completely agree with you. It is very frustrating. We do have other elevators that they can get, they can get to, but it's not convenient.
Yeah, if you already have some type of disability, and that's a long way. If you're able-bodied, it doesn't seem like a long way, but if you're already on a crutch, or you have a community person who has a problem, they may not see it, but you don't have to visibly see a disability. They may need that elevator, and so they could be out of breath going to either end. So that's a huge, huge concern.
We did approve the expense for that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We've got that
in there, so I
Yeah.
thought it had been
going, yeah.
It's a supply chain issue. We can't, as much as we would want, we can't control supply chain issues. And it's like our door locks for student housing. It was a 14-month back or a delay. So it's I can guarantee that they're doing the best they can to get that up and running. But when we can't get parts, we're just kind of stuck. And they, Shelley and her staff have been searching all different types of vendors all over the country. And it's just unfortunately, supply chain issue.
And I understand that. However, we need to keep it at the forefront so that the community knows that we're not dragging our feet on it, because if you're a community person or a student, you don't know all of that, and you're just thinking, they don't care about my needs, that elevator is down.
Mm-hmm.
So if we keep it in the forefront talking about it, they know that we're working on it. But until I see it repaired, I'm probably going to ask every month, because that's critical, that the elevator is working. Especially, I think, in last month in Dr. Meyer's report, he talked about the Student Accessibility Center was bringing more students on campus to see about coming here. And they thought, how disappointing, you're coming on here, whatever that accessibility issue may be, and then you can't even get downstairs. What does that say? Does that say, well, you're not welcome here because we don't have an elevator for you?
Mm-hmm.
So I just look at big pictures, and I look at how things are connected, and it's just a disconnect.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would guarantee staff is doing everything they can to get it up and fixed. So it is high priority. And
Very high.
understand it is a concern, but it's high priority for them as well.
Yep. Move approval of the report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Any
you.
opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Dr. Knieven. Okay, next is the Chief Human Resources Officer report delivered by Ms. Christina McGee. Go ahead, Ms. McGee.
Okay, well, hello again.
Hello.
I'll just go over some brief highlights in my report. We're currently still in the process of filling our HR specialist front desk position. We're having our final interviews this week, so hope to have someone in place within the next few weeks. We also I've been talking about for the last couple of months, what we're calling our Growth and Learning Opportunity Workshops. It's a summer event for professional development. Well, that actually is right around the corner. It's next Tuesday. So this is our first event out of Human Resources where where we are having an actual workshop with breakout sessions and professional development opportunities for employees. So we're really looking forward to that event, and we're in the final stages of our planning, considering it's next Tuesday. So we're hoping to have a really good turnout and just kind of continue to expand this event, whether it continues to stay over the summer or throughout the year. But we're really looking forward to it and getting some good feedback from our employees. Our CEAM, or Center for Equity, Inclusion, and Multicultural Engagement department, they are working quite closely with our Equity and Inclusion Council. There was a meeting last week. We'll have one next week as well. With the change in director, or new director that we have, which is Mike Torres. He is really looking at really identifying the mission and purpose of Equity Inclusion Council and some of the work that we should be doing going forward. So although that committee continues to meet monthly, just making sure that we're staying on focus and actually having action items that can come out of that committee. So still continuing to do that. He also recently relaunched our social media accounts. And so there have been some increases in our new followers for Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We've had some recent posts related to Juneteenth, as well as Juneteenth, and I have to go back and look, sorry, Juneteenth, Pride Month, and Disability Pride Month. So we've gotten some good traction on those social media posts and hope to continue those going forward. And then last, I'll just highlight some of the quarterly exit interview surveys that we've received from employees. Our new employee surveys really demonstrate that there's a significant increase in the overall satisfaction for communication between Q1 and Q2. So I'm happy to see that. I can't put my finger on what's different, but happy to see that there's an increase for this new group of individuals that have started. I will also note that between Q1 and Q2, we've seen an increase in the overall experience that employees have engaging with their supervisors, their colleagues, and really having a full understanding of their position and the actual work in which they're doing. There were some areas in which we saw a decrease, and that was really around the expectations of the new position. So we can continue to work with supervisors with their new employees to make sure that that information is being shared, because that really increases our engagement if employees understand what the expectation is of their positions and their roles. We've also had a lot of really good feedback about the professional development offerings, but also the financial commitment that the college places on professional development. So we continue to receive kudos related to that. Areas of increase, or areas where we can increase, were identified as just connectedness around the college, but happy to report we're working on that in the next strategic plan through communication, collaboration initiatives, as well as just focusing on engagement. So those are things that will actively be in the works.
1 minute.
Oh, okay. Exit interviews, the top 3 reasons individuals are leaving the institution, which are not uncommon with other institutions as well, but it's retirement, personal reasons, or career advancement. Again, we are working in our strategic plan on just a succession planning and how we can continue to prepare individuals to move up to that next level. Overall, generally, individuals have identified that they enjoyed working here during their tenure with the college. So that concludes my report. I'll answer any questions that you have.
Ms. McGee, as I was looking at your report, I don't know if it was just an oversight. You know, usually if a page is left blank, it'll say left blank intentionally, but you have a page 7 and there's nothing on it. Was that just?
There's nothing on that page.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
I think it was just an extra page.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Ms. McGee?
Move to approve report.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you again, Ms. McGee. Next is the Chief Information Officer report delivered by Mr. Peter Gabriel. Go ahead, Mr. Gabriel.
Hello again.
Oh.
Just a couple of things I wanted to highlight from the report. One thing I thought of that it's not on the report, but we just recently did it, but I wanted to talk about it also. First, I wanted to talk about the colleague resident life module installed. That'll help us get information out of eRes Life, which is the software that's used by Centennial Hall to get students into their rooms and takes payments and things like that. The resident life module in colleague is where we'll be able to pull that data in from that system and store it into colleague, and then that will give us the ability to, with some other fields in resident life, automate some things, so give access to doors for the students' ID cards and things like that. The other is the domain migration that's on there. It's going to be a long process, but we need to make that change. We've had the domain structure that we have now for the longest time. I understand why they made it in the beginning. It was security reasons, but over the years they made changes to it that defeated the purpose of the security. So recently we have ran into issues. The way it's set up, it causes us issues with other applications and integrating things. So we've begun that process. We're starting to roll up the, I want to say, not the less important servers, but the least impact causing servers that we can. So we've already started that process. It'll take a while. There's a lot of things that tie into Active Directory, all of colleague, the different applications and things we have all talk to that. So it'll take a little while, including all of the user accounts, computers, servers, everything. So that will be good. One thing that is not on here, we will, I think today we started taking back the computers from the students that checked them out for the summer semester. And then I believe on the 7th or 8th, we will start to check them out for those students that need them in the fall. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, and we used a kind of a new tool to do this, but we put on a new lock screen and background for all the devices at KCKCC, and I'm wondering if you received them.
Yes.
Okay, so
I did.
in the past, we were able to push out the background screen, or we really never pushed out the lock screen, but we could only reach those devices that were still here on our campus in the building on our network. The new tool, and thank you to Chris Green and her team, created a point that I can point all the machines to on our website. So when they come on, they get this new policy and they point to a URL that's on our website to pull that picture. So I think it looks really good. We do have some different size screens and things that it fits differently on, but it definitely looks nice and it reaches everyone, not just those devices that are still here on campus. So with that, I'll stop. If you've got any questions or anything on the report, I'd be glad to take them.
No question, but I thought I'd tell you what I'm reading right now. It's a book called When Fancy Bear Went Fishing. Have you heard about it?
No.
It's a gentleman he's an attorney by trade, but also a philosopher. And he taught himself how to hack so that he could understand Fancy Bear and fishing. And he's teaching in this book the steps for hacking. So look out. I may come after you here when I finish this book.
Okay.
Well, help me when you get it, okay? But regarding the domain, I remember vaguely when that was done. And so while I don't know a whole lot about it, I do know that, just like you said, it was separate. The students' emails were separate from the employees because they were concerned about hacking. But you're saying now we are so sophisticated, we've made so much progress until it can be all on one root domain and we're safe.
Yeah, and the reason, and I won't go because I can glass everyone's eyes over, but just having the separate email addresses for staff and students was not a reason to have the child domains then set up the way they are. So, yes.
And this is kind of off a little bit, but still along that line. At that time, we had a real difficult time getting students to use their college email. Do you know, is that up now, or are they using it more? Because in the past, they would just always enter a personal email and didn't want to use the college email.
I think the usage is up. I know, we'll say prior to the pandemic, the average use of student email was about 30%. I imagine that's gone up recently. it's, when it was 30%, email was on campus, on premise, not in the cloud. It's in Microsoft now in the cloud. Things are so more interconnected with those things that they're probably accessing it more than they were before. It's just easier to access. So.
Move approval of report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Mr. Gabriel.
Thank you.
Excellent work and excellent report as always. At this time, before we did not have any unfinished business, but as a result of the special meeting, we have 3 items, items 1, 2, and 3 that we're going to need to discuss under unfinished business. And the board will be taking action on those items individually. So with that, moving to item, does anyone have any questions or comments before we move into? No? Okay. All right. So on item 1, yeah, pardon? Oh, I thought I heard something, sorry. Okay, so on item 1, my understanding is that it is the board's desire to to approve the grievance at level 4. And this would not include the reinstatement of the individual to the position as requested for the grievance. And Mr. Goheen, could you advise me, have I stated it correctly?
Greg had to step out, but he has one of his staff members here as well.
I don't think that's correct, Madam
I think
Chair. We're not approving
the grievance.
We're not approving the grievance.
We're approving the resolution.
Yeah. The motion would be to approve the decision by the administration at level 4.
Approve the grievance response.
Approve however you want to word it, approve the grievance response or administrative response at level 4.
And I would just say I'm Chase Pumford for Mr. Goheen. My understanding was that these were going to be taken up in executive session as opposed to here in open session.
We have to vote in open session.
Right. We discussed all of these in executive session, so we have to take action in open.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, though.
Is this a roll call vote?
Yes, that's the, I don't know about a roll, but that's the vote. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Does it require a roll call vote?
I would not believe so.
I wouldn't think so.
Okay,
think just-
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Oppose.
Okay.
Was that 2 nays or just 1? I heard a
Yes.
comment at the end. There's 2 nays?
2.
Yes.
Okay. All right. With that, then, with the 2 nays, the motion does still carry. And again, this is for item 1. The next item would be item 2, and that would be, it was also discussed in the executive session, and at this point in time, the motion is to grant an increase in the not funding, but an increase in the, it's not an increase in the budget, but it's to provide Dr. Mosier with permission to move to the $55 million cap. And Dr. Mosier, would you like to provide some additional background on that before we take a vote?
Sure, and if I may, that's executive session 3.
Yep.
Do you want to go ahead and act on that now since it's been introduced?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do 3. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I had a
No, that's fine. So for executive session 3, we discussed the downtown project and the escalation that has taken in, that has happened in construction costs. And the request was to move the total dollar amount allocated to the project from no more than $50 million to no more than $55 million.
Okay, any questions for Dr. Mosier? May I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That leads us to item number 2. And Dr. Mosier, at this point in time, you can go ahead and give us the background on item number 2.
Sure. I'm asking that the board approve the resignation of Christopher Cox at this time.
Any questions for Dr. Mosier before we vote?
Well, wait, we approved it. I thought what we was voting on is we're releasing him for his contract, and we're saying that he still has to pay the fee. So if we just say approve, I think we're approving him.
If we don't take action on the waiving of the damage fee, the liquidated damages, then it's irrelevant. All we're voting on is just releasing him from his contract.
Okay, but he still has to pay
Correct.
the fee. Okay, so that's what I wanted to make sure that we know that, because before when we voted, when people left their contract early, we may have waived the fee. But on Mr. Cox, we are not waiving the fee. He will still have to pay the $500 fee.
Yeah, that's correct. When we do these votes, if the board's decision is to not waive the fee, it's not part of the motion. So we only include that in the motion if the board decides to waive the liquidated damages.
Okay, just want to make sure that we get this right. We don't end up somewhere saying that we waived it and we didn't know we waived it. So.
Understood. Any other questions or comments? May I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. That takes us to new business, and I'd like to have the presentation of the notice of hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate and budget hearing for fiscal year 2023 through 2024 budget, presented by Dr. Shelley Knieven, Chief Financial Officer. Go ahead, Dr. Knieven.
Okay, thank you very much. And in your packet, there's a variety of documents that I'm going to talk us through. And then there's some actions that we're going to request that you all take as a board. The first of those is the notice of a hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate. So last month, we presented a variety of options. We also presented some information about what we were wanting to propose as items included in the budget. And the consensus, I think, was that we wanted, we had direction from you all to do a 1 mil decrease in the tax levy. So that's what this document says. This is a notice that's provided to us by the state of Kansas. So we just have to use their notice, and we have to publish this in the newspaper. And essentially what this says is that we have direction from our board that you're intending to exceed the revenue neutral rate, and that you're planning on having a hearing next month about that, and then also a budget hearing. So it's authorization for us to put this in the newspaper. It will show that we are doing a 1 mill levy reduction. I do want to point out, and again, we received this form from the state of Kansas, and most of it's filled out in terms of the prior years. But if we were to go backwards in time, when you all had adopted the tax rate, it was actually, and it's on here at 27.382. And the county actually updates that based on getting to the same revenue number after appeals are done and that type of thing. So it always varies just a tiny bit, but what people were actually taxed on their tax bill was 27.375. Okay, but last year at the same time, what was on this notice is what we're required to put in the publication. I think it's confusing, but if somebody were to look at, if they were to look at their bill, they're gonna see a slightly different and lower, incidentally, tax rate. And then this would be a 1 mill levy less. Okay, so I'm going to pause there, and it might be helpful to take action on each one of these as we go through them, or if it's your preference, I'll go through all the documents now and come back. So it's whatever the board's pleasure is. If you want to take action on this notice, what would happen is tomorrow we'll send this into the county. And we will then put the notices in the newspaper like we're required to. And it's on Thursday of this week when the county is sending out letters based on all of the taxing districts and what they submit to the county in terms of their tax levy. So those will be hitting mailboxes soon. And we will talk about internally and put some information together so we can educate the public a little bit more about this, because the notices that go out to people don't necessarily convey the information in the most clear way. It's all there, but you have to know what you're looking at, because it's complicated if you don't do this stuff all the time.
So what we're actually approving is to publish that notice.
Correct. You're not adopting the tax levy yet. You could still
Right.
change.
Yeah.
But this just gives us permission to proceed with putting a notice out that what
Which is
we
required
built
by
a-
law.
Required by law.
Yeah.
And what
Yep.
we build a proposed budget on is this tax levy.
We actually have two actions, I'm sorry.
There's
So
more.
we need, just on this item, we need to do two items. One, we need to approve the notice to exceed the revenue neutral rate. I would vote on that. And then I would vote on the motion for the notice of hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate. That way it's just clear in our minutes.
So
Second.
we're going to approve exceeding the revenue neutral rate before we have the hearing.
No, you're not
It's
actually.
it's an
setting it.
intent.
We
So
have to
if-
announce that before we can do it.
I understand that. That's why I said what we're actually approving is publishing that notice.
And
It's
there's,
correct. So
you're asking for a vote on both of these pages from the documents, right? One is just the text notice,
yes.
and the other is the numbers, and you
That
want
is
approval on
correct.
both?
Right. So the number one is that we have to submit by the 20th is our notice of intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate. So I would stop there and ask for a motion on that, and then I would move forward to the next bullet.
And that's the second page in your packet,
Mm-hmm.
just in terms of the order of things.
I move we approve a notice of hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
And then I would do the budget hearing, please.
So, do you want them to also take action on notice of a hearing to exceed the revenue
Exceed.
neutral rate and
Yeah.
budget hearing?
Right.
Okay, so that motion would be to approve the notice of hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate and budget hearing.
And that's the
That's
one that
what you're
includes the dollar amounts. The first one is just a general statement of notice to exceed the revenue neutral rate. The second one has the dollars.
Right, they're just reversed in the packet, so that's, in case you're trying to track that on your computer. So the first page they see is this one, that would be a motion, and then you've already now voted on this one, which is fine. I mean, it doesn't have to be in a particular order.
And that number we're approving is
Is
what we're
26.
intending to set the mill levy at.
Mhm. At this point.
In the budget
what you
hearing,
intend,
yes.
26.375.
I would add that we're just setting the ceiling, the highest
Yeah.
we
Right,
can go. We
exactly.
could still
Yeah.
go lower before approving the actual budget.
Okay.
I move approval of the notice of hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate and budget hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, so the next item I want to talk you through is the approval of the proposed budget for publication. Again, this is just saying that this is what, at this point in the process, we intend the budget to be, but it's not you formally adopting the budget. You don't do that until next month.
Right.
And there'll be 3 specific actions you take next month. But you've got in your packet a variety of things. It's the proposed budget. It's essentially what you saw last month with some changes. We did get the final update from the county on the assessed value, and it ended up closer to 16%, and we thought it was going to be at 14%. So those numbers are updated, and then the scenario with the 1 mil levy reduction is included in your packet. And then we continue to refine our budget, and we had a few contracts that we missed that needed to be included, and big ones. They were big dollar amounts. As well as Perkins, we had under state grants. It needs to be under federal. So just some cleanup. But in the document that looks like this, that's in your packet, it should be the fourth page in your packet of these, in order of these finance documents. It shows you what those changes were so that you can track that from what you got last month in terms of revenue as well as in terms of expenses. This will tie into the projected year-end budget that I had talked about earlier in my presentation. So the money that we will have for setting aside to the reserves as well as the net revenue. So that ties in, it's the second column for the kind of soft close of the fiscal year. And then the far right column is the proposed budget scenario with the 1 mil reduction. And then it ties out to the sheet that's in your packet that just summarizes this. But all those details are there in case you want to compare and see what was changing. And we've also included those detail footnotes for each one of those revenues and expenses. So that's in your packet. And then also updated was the capital outlay budget. It's a component, it's a subset of the total budget, but it's just something that as a tradition we have done in outlining what our capital expenses are. So that is included as a reference document as well. And so for a minute, I'm going to stop there, and then I'll talk about the other couple of documents. But what we would be asking for is an approval of the proposed budget for publishing in the newspaper, another notice. Next month, you'll have the hearing, but this is so that we can communicate publicly, here's what we're proposing, and then next month we'll have a hearing and people can come and make comments, or you all, of course, can ask questions, make comments, and that's when any final decisions are made is next month. But this gives us approval to publish. This is our intended budget. So you just gave us our intended tax rate, our mill levy, okay? And we built our budget around that number, and so then this is the way that we were proposed those funds be used, if that makes sense, in terms of all these different steps that the wonderful state of Kansas has us do.
Where will this be published? I know the hard copy publications, there aren't as many anymore. And also, do we publish this online? Because my concern is with the lack of so many newspapers available now, how will the public really see this? You know, we publish it, but where are we publishing it to? Where are the avenues we're doing with that?
Let me follow up to make sure I don't answer that incorrectly.
Okay.
But I believe it is the Kansas City Star because it's the widest distribution, but I need to confirm that since that's a...
I believe it's the Wyandotte
No.
Daily News.
Wyandotte.
Wyandotte Echo.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's an
website.
online, so I would also suggest the Call and Telemundo. That's a Latino paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that way we know we're reaching all of our audiences.
Mm-hmm. We absolutely can do that.
Okay.
And we'll also have information on our website.
Yes, because I think Telemundo and the Call, people who subscribe to that would be
Dos Mundos.
Dos Mundos, yeah.
Yeah, Telemundo is a television
Excuse me for
station.
saying that incorrectly. Those two populations would be pleasantly surprised to get that information. So,
Okay, I'm glad to do that.
and there are taxpayers too. All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we want people to be aware of what's being proposed and, the fact that you all are making a decision to lower the tax levy.
Yes.
It's a positive
Big deal.
thing. Yeah, it's a positive thing, and we want to educate people about that because the notices they'll get that are from the state are just confusing.
I move we approve the publication of the proposed budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The last-
Next is,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Before you move on to the official depositories, the last thing I just wanted to point out, and it's just a good reference document for you. You all have seen these documents before. These are our buckets of designated and reserved funds. And so, as I said, we're doing a soft close of the fiscal year we just completed. And we expect to have about 6.7 million contribution to reserves, and then an additional net revenue of 4.2 million. And then it's highlighted in yellow where we propose putting those funds, which of course, until we get an audit and it's final, we won't know the exact dollar, but the proposal was to set aside some additional funds for early college renovation, which relates a lot to our facilities master plan, to set aside funds for the downtown center, and also have some funds set aside for unknown capital projects that might come up. And then the rest of it just goes into undesignated. It's a lot of places will call it your rainy day fund. Of course, any of these things could be designated for other purposes if there was a need. But it's just a way to be transparent and account for what's proposed in terms of where those dollars are being held. And because people learn and think differently, you also have a really tiny, but hopefully on your screens, much bigger spreadsheet that gives you the same information as the buckets, but it gives it to you in a different format. And then it gives you the updated version that we did at mid-year this last year. So all of that should crosswalk with documents that you're given today, as well as documents you've been given before. So I just want to make sure you saw that in your packet. There's no action needed on that at this time unless we want action.
No, there's no action on that. I just want to mention, as we were talking about the additional investment in downtown, because of the fundraising efforts that we have been doing the last couple of years, and the others in the pipeline, the money that you see designated in the reserve buckets, on just the green side, that's the reserved capital expenditures going to 19 million would cover all of the costs for the downtown project out of KCKCC funds. So just making the known that we do have the money to cover that with the cash on hand.
Okay, so next month, just to summarize, we'll have a public hearing that'll be on the tax rate, okay? And the revenue neutral rate hearing, which is required. Those setting the mill levy rate and the revenue neutral rate require approval of a resolution. So you'll have that. If however things turn out, it'll be a resolution. We'll have a public hearing on the budget, but you can't do that till you set your levy. So that is a vote that you will do on a certification that sets the mill levy, and then you'll have a motion to adopt the FY24 budget. Okay, so it's kind of 3 steps. So first step is we're exceeding revenue neutral, and this is what we intend it to be. Next step is we're going to certify the mill levy, and it's to do this budget. And then the final step is to approve adopting the budget. So it's real clear. We want it to be clear for people and make sure we're compliant with the law. So that'll be next month. And so I'm going to pause and see if you have any questions about all this material you've been provided. Obviously, you can follow up with President Mosier, and if there's more details you need on anything, we're more than glad we'll provide more information next month to kind of highlight the investments again that we're proposing to make with the dollars that we're using for KCKCC and our students.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, then moving on then to the designation of official depositories. Go ahead, Dr. Knieven.
Yes, so in your packet, there's also a document, and it was called to my attention that we have a procedure called out where you adopt the different entities that we currently have deposits with. I also included as information the investments. And so this is we've got 4 banks that the majority of our funds run through, and which of our sub-funds those banks are are managing for us. And then we have 4 different entities right now that we have investments with, which have been coming forward to you. I do want to provide an update. We have reached out to Liberty Bank, and they will allow us to forego, to close out that CD that's really low. And we're waiting on some additional information. If we were to stay with them, what would be their rate? And they're willing to convert up to the higher rate. It's 500,000, so it's not nearly as big as the other investments, but we have followed up on that, and there's a process you go through to make that happen. So I'd ask for a motion to approve the bank depositories.
Just a quick question on this one. So I noticed the 4 banks under the investments section, but that does not include some of the banks that are above that, so UMB or Country Club. So by approving this, are we limiting you so you can't collect bids on investments from other banks?
No, this is just like a disclosure of where we have them now. And all of these banks, when we started the new process, we contacted all of these banks and gave them the opportunity to bid, as well as others, which we would continue to do. So no, this does not limit us to these 4. I just wanted to share where we have those investments, so you have a full picture of where our banking investments and funds are.
That's great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the follow-up on Liberty.
I wish I had a better answer on the elevator.
Thank you for all you do.
Move approval. Go ahead, Brad.
Move approval of the bank depositories.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Dr. Knieven. Dr. Knieven. Excellent work as always. Okay, that takes us to the to unfinished business, unfinished business. And this is actually item number 4 from the special meeting. We are actually going to need to go into executive session in order to have our discussion about this with possible action to follow. And I will just read that it is an executive session for consultation with an attorney for the public body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship with possible action to follow in open session. There's a 7-minute duration. And again, board members will be, of course, allowed time to travel to and from the Upper Jewel Lounge.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are now on our way to executive session. Thank you.
They're gonna hit Mike's live here in a second. Okay, Trustee Criswell, we have all returned.
Wonderful. Well, welcome back. I just wanted to announce that there is no action needed from the board on executive session item number 4. With that, we have come to the end of our time together. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much, everyone. Be sure and enjoy your evening and enjoy the rest of your week. Good to see everyone.
All right, thank you.
Bye, Evelyn.
Good night.
Take care. Good night.
Yeah.